The next day, Matt brought up his cash shop and checked out some of the crafting manuals. There was a lot of stuff in there. It ranged from single weapon crafting recipes to full collections of everything in a bundle, that would be cheaper than buying everything one by one. There were many weapons and armor categories. He did have that golden hammer that he got, so he probably should get some weapon crafting skills first, but wouldn't he need something to sharpen the blade? Was that hammer enough? Novice crafting bundle, 8,000, 5,600, lets the user craft basic gear. The bundle includes recipes for common grade items. The grade of the items depends on the crafter's skill. Novice starter crafting abode included in the bundle. What's a crafting abode? He searched for the term in the store and raised his eyebrow at what he got. Novice crafting abode 4,000, 2,800, creates a manufacturing abode for the user, cannot be opened if enemies are around. It can only be used only for crafting common grade equipment. Apprentice crafting abode, can only be purchased if novice abode is present. 40,000, 28,000, creates a manufacturing abode for the user, cannot be opened if enemies are around. It can only be used only for crafting mortal grade equipment. Adept crafting abode, can only be purchased if apprentice abode is present. 400,000, 280,000, creates a manufacturing abode for the user, cannot be opened if enemies are around. It can only be used only for crafting earth grade equipment. Asterisk. Well, this doesn't explain much. The abode can be opened? Does it put me in some kind of pocket dimension so I can craft in there? Well, that would be neat. Or does it spit out some kind of house out in the open instead? Asterisk. Matt wasn't sure about the opening part of the explanation. He sure wanted to get that newbie bundle though, even though he could only make the lowest of low items. Being curious, he decided to buy it, not like he had to use it right away. He looked as his points dwindled once more. Spending points on skills was one of the more exciting things that a gamer could do, but it also was a chore to choose if you had limited points for it. He waited for the crafting knowledge to invade his brain and give him a migraine once more. He closed his eyes and tried to focus on good things, but the pain didn't come and he didn't feel any knowledge of smithing. Did I get scammed? He poked on his status screen and he soon spotted a new icon there. It looked like tongs and a hammer, crossed with each other. He hovered his finger over the new prompt, being uncertain if he should click it or not. He looked outside the window. The night was dark and he couldn't see much outside. The place didn't have any electricity, so there were no street lights around. People in this world used either fire or special magical treasures that produced light. But this village had none of that, besides simple candles and fireplaces. Matt gulped and went for it, clicking the icon, and was greeted by a clung of a hammer on an anvil before a bright light filled the whole place. People could see a bright flash in his window that vanished as soon as it appeared. He felt a buzzing sound in his ears as he got momentarily blinded. After rubbing his eyes, he opened to find himself in another room. The walls looked like medieval castle walls. There was a giant furnace that was bubbling with liquid metal. There was a big anvil in the middle of the room with the furnace next to it. He spotted all the classical blacksmith utensils around, but they all looked kind of shabby. Okay, so I have my own pocket dimension to smith stuff, neat. There were no windows around and the room was lit by torches that were attached to the walls, plus a lot of candles here and there. The whole place had that middle-age vibe to it. He pulled his golden hammer that was supposed to have some crafting-related bonuses. He swung it around, hitting the anvil in the middle just to hear a nice ding sound. Well, shit, what am I supposed to do in here? I didn't learn any crafting skills. He could see some iron ingots lying around the place, but not much besides that. Matt scratched his head and brought up his window, which was a bit different as it looked like the crafting space had its own window. He could see the list of recipes that he probably previously got in the bundle listed there. It was mostly for regular weapons like daggers, swords, maces. But there were other things like fans, robes and some tools. Guess it included all the basic craftable items that were in the bundle, though they were in there and not in his head for some reason. Matt selected a regular-looking iron dagger, wondering if it would do anything, and as he clicked he saw that there was an iron ingot next to the dagger picture now. As he was looking at that, a little clip played of a caricature of a blacksmith picking up an ingot and placing it in the large smelting furnace and then hammering on the anvil. Asterisk. Is it showing me to place one of those ingots in the furnace? Well, not like I have anything to lose at this point. Asterisk. He shrugged and picked up an iron ingot from the pile by the wall, and slowly placed it in the furnace. After this, something weird started to happen. The smelting furnace began glowing and music began playing. He then looked at the anvil in the middle of the room as an enthusiastic voice could be heard coming from it. Get ready. 3, 2, 1, go. He was bewildered as a slab of red glowing metal appeared on the large anvil, a catchy tune began playing and some glowing green prompts started appearing on the slab. Asterisk God damn, this is a rhythm game? Asterisk. He had the golden hammer in his hand and started hitting the glowing green spots that turned red if they were out of sync. The whole thing took about 2 to 3 minutes, and as he kept hitting the hot block of iron it started turning into the shape of a dagger. Congratulations, you created a common iron dagger middle grade. He looked at the dagger on the anvil while some confetti got tossed in the air and then vanished soon after. He picked it up and swung it around, and sure enough it was a real dagger, and it was quite sharp too. Matt was a bit surprised by the whole thing, but that explained why he didn't get any direct knowledge about crafting. It just put it in the game-like system, and depending on how well he did in the rhythm game, the quality of the item would be decided. Asterisk. I'm not good at rhythm games. He sighed while tossing the dagger into his inventory. He decided to chug another ingot into the furnace, and now being prepared he ran up to the anvil before the countdown started. A different tune than before started playing, which made him frown, but he was more ready than the last time as he started hitting the spots with his golden hammer. The slab of iron glowed quite a bit as he managed to land a perfectly timed hit, but this was just his second time, and all things considered he did quite well, though he missed here and there. Congratulations, you created a common iron dagger high grade. He took out the first dagger and compared it to the other one. The high grade one was shinier and it looked sharper than the first one he made. He poked at the tip with his finder, wondering how sharp the thing was, but the dagger wasn't able to inflict any damage on his superior body, that had a high body refining technique, and common grade items couldn't damage him. Well, I guess this is an interesting way to do it. At least it's fast. I just need to gather materials and the rest thing is automatic. I wonder if I can add some special effects to these items. He started playing with the crafting interface and he figured out that he could add other items to the ones that were required. The prompt only showed him the minimum required items needed. Wonder what will happen if I add one of those beast cores. He had the big rabbit core on him and also the smaller crimson wolf cores that the villagers gave him previously. So he decided to test it once more, going for a regular sword now. It used up one more iron ingot than the dagger. After adding one of the cores he started hammering the now bigger slab of metal in the middle of the anvil. He started getting better and better at the game, but he wasn't perfect at it quite yet, but after getting the finished product he got surprised. Congratulations, you created a common crimson longsword perfect grade. Don't need to get a perfect score to get the highest grade item? Maybe if you add high grade materials it lowers the requirements for the items. Afterward he went on a weapon creation frenzy and used up all the iron ingots and cores to create perfect grade common weapons. He made a spear, a two-handed hammer, a great sword, an axe, and a Jian sword. They were all in the Crimson series and looked nice and menacing, as the added cores gave them a style upgrade as well. I need cotton fiber or leather for clothes, so I guess I'll try those later. Don't think the hammer game will play for those though. He didn't see any tailoring equipment. It looked like a forge mostly for weapons and maybe metal armor, though people in this world didn't really wear those as they used a plethora of colorful robes and clothes. Guess you don't need iron armor if you can make your body as hard as a diamond. He found himself back in his cabin. Nothing looked out of place as he was standing in the same spot as if he never left. He felt a bit spent, but more mentally than physically. He had a high cultivation base, so after he focused his senses he could more or less hit all the glowing spots. He reckoned that due to this he would be able to have an easy time crafting things below his level that were the common and mortal grade items, but when getting into the earth and heaven graded ones there would be a spike in difficulty. Matt was curious about making the cultivator robes. There was a couple of cool ones in there, though the one he was wearing felt like it was quite the high spec as well. He soon would find out the horror that was tailoring. He turned in for the night. After a good night's rest, he left his cabin only to get greeted with many busy villagers that looked like they were still clearing out the gory pile of centipedes that he left for them. He kind of turned his head in the opposite direction as he spotted the mess, hoping that people wouldn't see him, but he was kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. Well, not like anyone would complain to him even though they were mad. Matt just beelined towards the market as he wanted to get some clothing materials. His appearance was met with bows as always, and with smiles from some of the villagers and with frowns from others. He headed over to what looked like a stand. It had various beast hides in it and other things. Welcome sir, how can I help you? The shop owner, that was a middle-aged lady, greeted him as he moved closer. He nodded at her and replied with a casual hello. He looked at the wares and then back to the shop owner. He rubbed his chin while looking at the wares while the lady got more and more nervous. How much can you give me for this? Matt didn't really know the value of those clothes as well. He didn't know the value of his gold coins or spirit stones. The shiny coin was placed at the wooden table and the woman looked at it with open eyes. She grasped it with a shaking hand and examined it. Matt looked on as the lady shook, bit and then licked the coin for some reason before trying to return it to him. Sir, I cannot accept this, it's too much. The woman was troubled as she did indeed want the golden coin, but this coin, if you translated it to the modern world rate, would go for about $10k or euro. The things the villagers sold weren't worth that much, they were mostly simple cotton cloth and beast leather, a common thing around these parts. Well, just give me all of your leather and cloth, I don't need finished clothes, just the fabric though. You can just give me more if you have some later. After some pushing, he managed to give the bewildered woman the gold coin and left with a bunch of leather pelts and rough cotton fabrics. He sneaked back into his wooden cabin and closed the blinds in his room before heading out into the crafting abode once more. He now had the raw materials needed for the procedure and he was curious about what the game system had cooked up for him next. He looked at the items that he could craft and selected a leather tunic that looked kind of sturdy. After he selected the crafting item, a prompt appeared if he really wanted to change to crafting clothes, which he found strange as the prompt didn't appear when he was selecting the weapon recipes. After he selected yes, the room started shaking and the anvil started getting lowered to the floor, till it was gone. In its place, a handlebar started moving up along with a white platform. After it appeared, it started glowing in a pattern that he was familiar with. Is this a Dance Revolution pad? It had 2 arrows pointing left and right and 2 pointing up and down, but also had some going into each corner as well. The handlebar was there to hold onto it while tap dancing around as it was in these kinds of games. He put in the required leather pieces for the tunic and looked at the dreaded dance game. He could see which arrows he needed to step on as an out-of-place screen moved down from the ceiling and it showed him the steps he needed to take while showing a seizure-inducing animation on it as well. Matt awkwardly moved his legs, hitting the arrows more or less. He never had the pleasure of trying this in real life and the experience was new, so he didn't get a good score as he fumbled around. In the end, they got a middle grade one, which wasn't really an achievement as he would have to really mess up to get a common low grade. I think I'll stick to this robe in the future. He looked at the dancing game which was flashing in the colors of the rainbow and looked super out of place in the gloomy blacksmith-looking room. But he did get a whole lot of crafting resources, it would be a drag to let them go to waste. Well, no one can see me in here, so no one will know, still better than sewing the stuff myself. He slapped his cheeks to pump himself up, he moved his feet to the beat, fumbling here and there, but after a while he figured out the gist of it, but he didn't get anything above the common high grade. Now he had a lot of tunics and cotton robes that he didn't know what to do with. The clothing didn't really have any special attributes to them, besides being a bit more sturdy due to the high grade. He would have to add the beast cores and other resources to make them more special. Think I had enough for today. He rubbed his chin and looked at his system screen. After going through the crafting window, he also figured out that he could access a creative mode where he could design his own weapons and armor, but it was severely limited at the moment and he couldn't add much besides symbols or letters. Maybe later he could design a gun blade, or maybe a chain blade. He got a little bit sweaty after the jumping and wiggling his posterior about. If someone saw him dance around with that awkward expression on his face, he would probably crawl under a big mountain in shame. For now, he exited the pocket crafting dimension and gave out a sight. Well, not if you don't take the fact that I have to do silly games to craft items. This isn't a bad thing at all, though I'll have to experiment with the recipes and see what I can use to make things like the crimson weapons. Maybe I can use something besides the beast cores as well. He had somewhat an idea what to do now: gather more points, make more weapons and maybe more robes. Though he didn't want to spend a super long amount of time in this region, he did remember the city that he was supposed to go to, but he wanted to stock up on things he could sell there as well. Well, don't think it will be a problem if I stick around here a bit longer, there must be more insect nopes to slay. So the decision was made and Matt continued with his routine. He mostly hunted monsters in the day, gathering them for the townspeople, which were a lot gladder as he started bringing in some huge lizards and snakes as well. He tended to go for the non-mammal looking beasts as those reminded him of cats and dogs a bit too much. This was hypocritical, but he mostly defeated those in self-defense or while protecting other people. Thus, the poor tribe received quite a bit of insect monsters to work on instead. A week had passed like this. Name: Jiangdong. Affiliation: Zhang Clan. Spirit points: 21,034. Cultivation base Qi, core formation early stage 42%, lightning core. Cultivation base body, foundation establishment middle stage 0%, silver body. Techniques: lightning Qi cultivation art, silver body arts, thunder light sword, thunder movement art, lightning javelin, lightning punching and kicking arts, basic and advanced fighting techniques. I implied in the previous chapters that he also got punching and kicking skills along with some combat techniques, but I never put it in the table and just left dots in there. Sorry if you get confused that I put it in now. Might have forgotten to do it earlier. Underscore. A handsome man was standing out in the wilderness. He was looking at a house-sized boulder. He had his fist tightly clenches as he was focusing on the huge rock in front of him. The space around the man started crackling and tiny bolts of electricity started appearing. They were guided to his closed fist, filling it with spiritual energy and making it glow in the process. The man pulled his fist back while looking at the big boulder in front of him and then delivered a punch. The hit produced a thunderous sound, and as his fist collided with the side of the large rock, it exploded into pieces. It now had a huge hole in the middle of it, collapsing right afterward as the man looked and nodded. Matt was getting used to this cultivator lifestyle a bit. The gaming system made things easy as he spent his days training in his previously gotten techniques. He had quite a bit of points now, though not enough to buy the better crafting abode just yet. Even less if he wanted to get the entire bundle that cost over twice that, plus not like he really needed all of the crafting recipes in the system. His cultivation was increasing at a rapid pace as well. He wondered if his body was just gifted or if the cultivation method was special, as he didn't think cultivating would be this fast. He should hit the next stage within 2 to 3 weeks like this. Okay, I'm getting the hang of it now. Guess it wasn't such a bad idea to stick around here for a while. Guess the next step would be to test things out. He mostly used kiting abilities, which in gamer terms were using his range skills to fight the enemies off while being at a safe distance. He didn't want to rely on only those though. He wanted to spend some time getting used to the hand-to-hand combat skills that he had. He wanted to find himself someone or something to test his skills on. Matt glided up into the air and flew around the forest. But as he flew around, he couldn't really see any beasts that were worth his time. So he decided to go deeper into the forest than he usually did in the direction that he previously arrived in. It was about half a day's time away. He got really good at zooming around now, so it might take even less. Luckily, after a while, he found a fitting one. This one had red eyes as the other crazy beasts and looked like a silverback gorilla, but it had sharper teeth, long claws on its hands and a horn coming out of the forehead, plus it had 4 arms. Well, that's one ugly-looking unicorn. Frenzied Horn Tetra Ape, Foundation Establishment Early Stage. It has that prefix. Well, now to approach that without pooping my pants. The monster was scary looking. It was drooling and just standing there. It had a big bone in one of its hands. It placed the bone in its mouth, the sharp teeth just crushing the hard bone in one big chomp as it munched on it. Matt gulped as he was watching, but he had decided that he needed to get stronger, and this gorilla unicorn-looking thing would be a good start. He was slightly paranoid and he knew how these cultivator worlds worked, so he needed to get in some practice for the future to come. Okay, I got my healing and spirit energy recovering pills right here, shouldn't be a problem. He jumped down from his flying sword and placed it in his storage ring. For now, he wanted to face this creature in close-range combat. He started slowly going up to it. The large ape noticed him coming and gave out a huge roar. This making Matt stop in his track as he focused on the monster that began charging at him in an enraged bull charge. Matt went into a defensive position and took in a good breath of air to relax. He focused on the charging behemoth that was making the ground thump each time and brought its meaty fists onto it as it pushed itself forward at him. The creature was quite scary looking and twice his size as well as bulky. His mind was telling him to run away at this moment as the gorilla choo-choo train was barreling towards him. But he wanted to get used to this. He couldn't avoid all of his problems, plus the creature was more visually scary, but when it came to its abilities it paled in comparison to his. He used his movement technique right before the monster was about to deliver an overhead strike, leaving an afterimage that was sparkling with static energy. When the creature smacked his afterimage, it felt electricity run through its body, shocking it and making it stop in its tracks for a brief moment while also delivering moderate damage. Matt had learned that he could use his movement technique in this way, so as he dodged he left afterimages of himself that had residual lightning chi that if they got touched discharged a shock to the assailant. He appeared behind the Tetra Ape in a blur, giving it a good kick to its back which sent it flying. The creature flew face first into a tree that collapsed under the strain and shattered into many splinters. The monster roared in madness as it shook. It got kicked quite hard and it was feeling a sharp pain in its rear. Though as if not caring or just mad, it turned back after gathering itself back up. It roared once more and charged yet again. Matt didn't punt it with all his might. He didn't even infuse his foot with lightning chi this time around, just using his body as he tested out the waters. He danced around with the monkey monster. The creature was easy to dodge and predict as it only came at him with berserk charges and large swings which he could dodge at ease. He finally managed to get used to the intimidating look of the thing and had no problem delivering a nice hard punch to the creature's ugly mug, which just made it tumble backward, hitting even more trees. Guess I'm getting desensitized to battling a bit. He looked at his fist that had blood stuck to it, he grimaced and shook the red liquid off. Then he looked at the creature in front of him that he was kind of bullying at this point. Or maybe now I'm feeling bad about this whole thing. He didn't feel so good about himself as he used the creature as a punching bag, just testing out his skills while the thing looked more haggard with each passing moment, though if things were reversed he was sure that the monster would have torn all his limbs and eaten him like a snack. But as he was contemplating his skewed moral compass, something strange started happening. The ape started convulsing after his last hit, it started exuding strange red energy. After a while, he could see tentacles coming out of its ears and even bursting out of its back. The name above its head also had changed, including its cultivation level. Corrupted Horned Tetra Ape, Foundation Establishment Middle Stage. It started looking like a tentacle monster, and as if revitalized it let out a different kind of scream than before and charged at Matt again. Corrupted. It went up a level, Matt looked at the strange-looking gorilla that had tentacles protruding out of it now. The tentacle monster charged at him once more, trying to overwhelm him with its added speed and power. This, of course, wasn't enough to give Matt a run for his money. The only thing holding him back from beating this thing up once more was the disgusting way that it looked, so instead of attacking it he backed away. That thing looks gross. Hey, I'm not an anime girl, you tentacle monster. He shouted as he used his movement technique to zap the tentacle mass while he evaded. The creature looked like it took less damage than before. The creature kept up with its charge, destroying the trees and boulders along the way, smashing into anything in its path while Matt tried to keep his cool. Finally, he got fed up with the constant running away and charged up a lightning javelin after dodging and letting the monster attack his after-image as it dumbly did all the time. The thrown bolt of lightning smacked the creature in the upper arm shoulder, which was now gone. The man could see a big gaping hole in the corrupted creature's right shoulder, but along with blood more tentacles started squiggling around from it. The tentacles thrashed as if they were mad, and he could see that most of the creature's insides were composed of those tentacles and weird tendrils. This, of course, made him grimace in disgust even more. If one won't do the job, then how about 10? He didn't give the monster time to recover as he started choking his energy spears at it, putting more holes into its large frame. But each hole was just getting filled up by more and more tentacles, and the ugly thing wasn't going down and still tried to charge at the cultivator in white. He was too fast for it but didn't really want to get too close to the thing, but his range attacks didn't seem to be working. He kept on hitting it, taking out the legs from range and finally landing a blow on the head that just burst open with more squiggly things. Why, won't you die? The creature didn't have regular legs now and was just a pile of tentacles attached to the creature's torso. It was a lot slower than before, but by some strange rage-filled will it still wiggled its way towards Matt. He at this point started charging up the javelin attack once again, but this time he really focused all of his spiritual energy to pump it up to an enormous spear of light. The huge lightning spear crackled around as he held it above his head. He looked at the disgusting pile of tentacles that was inching slowly in his direction and flung it at the creature. What followed was a resounding boom. The monster exploded along with the ground that it was slithering on. A huge dust cloud was kicked up and the wind pressure from the explosion was immense, making the large trees in the vicinity shake violently. The creature was finally dead, but it also delivered its last blow against its opponent as the massive amount of tentacles flew in all directions and one of them hit Matt straight in the face. Corrupted Horned Tetra Ape slain, Foundation Establishment Middle Stage, earned 6,000 spirit points. The slimy appendage slid down his face and to the ground while his eye twitched. After the dust had settled he could see the squirming tentacles all over the place. Something strange started happening afterward though. The squirming appendages started giving out smoke or steam, and after a while, they just crumbled into dust. The only thing that was left was the creature's core that was in the spot that the monster was slain. Matt wiped his face with his sleeve and moved over to the spot that the creature's core was and examined it. The core was described as a Tetra Ape core. Guess the corruption didn't affect the cores that the monsters dropped, it was even of the lower early stage level. Matt looked around the forest that seemed eerier than it usually did. This creature gave him the creeps. It was one of the strange monsters that were always berserk and enraged. He guessed that it was those tentacles that were the cause of the disease, but when the host died they just turned to dust, leaving the core intact. Is it some kind of parasite? Or did something infect it for some reason? You can't detect if the creature is corrupt after you kill it, as the tentacle things inside just vanish and the core remains intact. Should I ask the village chief about it? Maybe he'll know something about it. The man was feeling a bit creeped out, hoping that it wasn't anything that he could get infected with, as the tentacle did hit him in the face and all, so the first thing that he did was to find the river and vigorously wash his face in it. He checked his status screen if it would show something clicking his name, but nothing out of place came up. He decided to head to his temporary base of operations in the village, hoping to get some answers from the village chief. It was the middle of the day and he was a bit far out, but he managed to return before the sun went down. He didn't get in any trouble while returning, so he gave out a relieved sigh. He didn't want to fight any more tentacle monsters on the way. Matt didn't have anything to give to the villagers today, as he spent most of the day sparring with the ape monster, and the trips back and forth took up the rest. He went to his cabin first as he thought about what he should ask the village chief, and after that, he gave him a visit while the sun was going down. People greeted him as always on the way there. He already knew his way here and the villagers kind of accepted the quirky senior. He was giving him a lot of resources to sell and bargain with other tribes, even though the bug monsters were a bit of a hassle. "Greetings, could I have a word with you, Yang Shan?" The other man nodded and led him to his room. Matt noticed that he looked a bit different today, as if he had some things on his mind. Also, there were fewer guards around for some reason. After they got to the room, he started explaining about his encounter with the strange monster. Of course, he didn't say about how he just spent most of the fight just running away and throwing his attacks at the monster. "I came across a strange beast today. After it took some damage, it started changing. Its cultivation realm expanded while various tentacle-like appendages started protruding from its hulking form. Of course, it's dead, but the tentacles vanished without a trace afterward. It seems that that's what is causing the beasts to go mad in this forest." The chief had a stern look on his face while Matt tried to explain what had happened in a more formal way for a change. The burly man rubbed his chin while looking distressed. "It can't be, it has to be the corrupt one. It corrupts other creatures to elevate its cultivation, consuming their bodies. But if one of the beasts has already turned, it must be close for it to feed. It's probably going to come out of its hiding place to consume the other monsters." Matt didn't like where this was going. There was some kind of strange monster out there, probably one with even more strange appendages. Maybe now would be a good time to leave this place? He wasn't that keen on fighting the thing, but as he was thinking about his next move, the burly man dropped to his knees and started kowtowing furiously. "Distinguished, honorable, illustrious and respectable senior. Aren't you overdoing it with the honorifics, dude? Please hear me out. My stupid son has gone missing for a few days. He probably went to the forest to prove himself after offending you, but he hasn't returned with his men. Now I fear that the corrupted one could have something to do with it. Please find it in your upright and just heart to aid this old man in finding his stupid son." Matt looked at the burly man that was hitting the floor with his forehead, making thumping sounds that just made more people show up and see the chief prostrating himself in front of him. But instead of stopping the man, they did the exact thing, as they also knew that his son was missing, putting Matt in an awkward position. Ugh! The thumping in the house continued as Matt was looking at the people down. There were burly men and women, even children, prostrating themselves in front of him. Probably most of them were the relatives of the silky pants that was giving him a migraine right now. He scratched the back of his neck and then held out his hand out. "Okay. Stop, that's enough." All of the people stopped in their tracks, but their heads remained planted to the ground, not daring to move an inch unless the honorable senior told them to. They were praying that he would help them out. If he didn't, the chief's son was as good as dead, and they would probably have to relocate their tribe as well due to the corrupted monsters and the even more dangerous beast that was behind them. Matt felt a headache coming along as looked at the silent people in the room. He contemplated what he should do for a moment. The moral thing to do would be to help the people out. The smart thing to do would be to just get out of there or wait to see how strong that so-called corrupted one was, otherwise he might find himself munched on by some creepy thing. Though Matt was one of the sorts of people that broke under increased social pressure, so even though he didn't think it was such a good idea, he decided to help the people out. Plus this also aligned more with his morals, plus deep down inside he was a big softie. He also was feeling bad for the prostrating people in front of him, and he reckoned that he should be able to handle the creatures in the forest, as he didn't come across anything too dangerous for the time he has been here. He gave out a big sigh as he spoke. "Okay, stand up. In what direction did that silk, in what direction did your son go?" Yang Shan was the first one to raise his head as a glint appeared in his eye, or it might have been a tear. He stood up and bowed once more. The rest of the tribe members did the same while backing away a bit. "I can't promise you anything though. This forest is gigantic, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. As Matt was talking, the chief took out some kind of circular medallion with a stag engraved on it and handed it over to the cultivator in white. This is... Senior, this is a treasure that was handed down to me by the previous tribe's head. It has a second part in the form of the ring. If you focus your energy into it you can feel in what direction the other part is. It has a limited range though, so we can't use it from here. The chief replied while Matt was looking at the stag medallion. I didn't use it as I thought the boy would just be away for a couple of days while hunting. He does these things from time to time, but with the appearance of the corrupted one, I'm afraid that he has a slim chance of coming back. Matt tried putting his spiritual energy into the magical treasure, and as it absorbed it, it started to give out a dinging sound as it glowed slightly. After a few moments, the dinging stopped as the treasure couldn't find its counterpart. He nodded and was led out of the chief's house and pointed in the direction that the Silky Paints and his crew had left. The other problem was that it was getting dark outside, but the other people looked quite concerned and were giving him those puppy dog eyes as they pleaded. Well, I'll be off then. He said awkwardly as he didn't take the expectations of these people all that well. His shiny crystalline sword was tossed out onto the ground. He jumped onto it, and as he took his flying stance it took off while the concerned tribe people looked at each other with worry in their eyes. They didn't doubt that this senior was strong, but they didn't know if he could handle the evil beast in the forest. They had to keep the well-being of the village in mind, so they decided to inform every important person in the village. They had to prepare for the situation of the senior not coming back, or abandoning the chief's son and coming back empty-handed. If it came to that, they would have to relocate deeper into the mainland while seeking help from the stronger clans that were in the cities. The crystalline sword produced a faint light as it drifted through the air with the muscular cultivator on top, that was scratching his head while flying forward. Why does it always have to be started by the young bratty masters, every damn time? Do they have some kind of troublemaker gene in them to cause trouble for others if you interact with them? He had been flying for a good hour by now. The sun was down, but he still couldn't get anything from this treasure. Matt had no tracking skills besides his map, but it had a limited range of showing living organisms in the vicinity as well. The boy and his entourage had a couple of days head start on him, but they couldn't have gotten that far into the forest, and he was a lot faster on his flying sword than people on the ground that could only run. He only had a vague idea where they could have gone. The people of the tribe told him a couple of places that Yang Rong could have gone to. He was hovering above one of those places right about now, but he couldn't see anything, but he found out that he could see a lot more in the dark than he thought he would be able to. Guess the cultivator's body came with various enhancements, plus the moons in the sky were also illuminating the silent night. Why was it so silent though? Matt stopped in his tracks and tried to listen. He thought he would hear wolves howling in the night or various creepy beasts just crawling around the place. But it was really silent, as if they had gone into hiding or escaped in a different direction. This gave of many red flags in his mind when he thought about it. Did they run away due to the corrupted one? He gulped and resumed with his flying. Going further and further as he flew for a good couple of hours, now being close to the spot that he had arrived in where it all started. He grasped the medallion and inserted his chi into it. It started dinging and dinging just as it always did, but this time around it gave out a louder sound than before. Matt could feel that the magical treasure was somehow guiding it to a certain spot in the forest. This must have been the area that the kid was in, and would you know it, it was right dab in the same spot that Matt was spirited away to this place. He scratched his neck and wondered if it was just a coincidence as he sped up towards that area. He still remembered hitting that tree and kicking that poor rabbit into meat paste by mistake. He just wanted to get there and get the kid and his idiotic posse, and would you know it, they were all there but looked haggard and in a bad state. He was still a bit from their position, but with his enhanced vision he could see some beasts surrounding the group. The beasts in question had squiggly tentacles protruding from their bodies as the ape that Matt battled previously. Matt brought out his trusted lightning javelin and was ready to give them air support before they got the hentai girl treatment there. He really didn't want to see burly men getting tentacled if he could do something about it. But before he could come to their rescue, the broken tree in the middle of the field that he crushed previously started shaking, and with a resounding boom, a creature emerged from within, kicking up a cloud of dust in the process. It was big and ugly, and when Matt squinted his eyes to take a closer look his jaw dropped. Is that goddamned Thulhu? The creature wasn't as big as the great old one from the stories. It was given or take 6 meters tall, but it was the spitting image of people's favorite monster. It had the octopus-like head hooves with a mass of feelers on them, plus the scaly humanoid body, claws on both hands and legs, as well as a fitting name. The name made Matt feel like he was getting trolled by someone. Mini Thulhu, the corrupted one. Foundation Establishment Great Circle. The creature gave out a roar, and the other tentacle beasts around it started squiggling as if they were having a dance party. The tribe members were hugging each other tightly with the silky pants in the middle. The kid's face was filled with tears and snot at this point, and he probably had some more liquids filling out his pants as he looked terrible. Matt got a hold of himself as the creature was looking around. It had wings on its back just like Thulhu. It spread its wings and generated a lot of wind that sent the poor tribe people flying, slamming into each other, the ground and trees, while the other tentacle monsters got closer. Just as the group of tribe people made peace with the world as they knew that they would be devoured any second now, they saw some light in the distance, and it was getting here really fast. The closest tentacle thing next to them exploded into gory bits as Matt's lightning strike hit it, then more and more of the creatures started exploding from the hits while the people looked on in astonishment in their eyes. The big bata turned in the direction that the attacks were flying from and gave out a roar, but it was met a light spear to the side as well. It staggered from the hit and a big wound appeared, but it started healing at a rapid pace. Matt appeared in a flash and kept zooming around on his sword while looking down at the creatures below. The tribe members cheered as they saw who it was. They were glad that the senior that they were familiar with somehow appeared out of the blue and was attacking the monsters. The group was a band of misfits, but they weren't dumb. They saw their chance as they noticed that the creatures stopped paying attention to them and slithered closer to the man standing on the flying sword. So they used this chance and run into the forest from the open field. Matt did clear out a path for them to escape and all. So they grabbed their sobbing and shocked Silky Pants Master and bolted for their dear life while not looking back at what was happening behind them. They could see some tentacle creatures moving to the clearing where the biggest monster was. For some reason, they didn't seem that interested in them anymore. It was an eerie sight of the tentacle wiggling things just converging into one location. It was better viewed from up in the sky, which Matt could see happening. The cultivator dressed in white looked as the other people escaped on their own and then looked down at the squiggly spectacle below him. The big bata was roaring up at him. This for some reason made his flying sword buzz. He had to focus on it so that it wouldn't drop down to the ground. Guess the monster was trying to bring him down below, but its cultivation wasn't strong enough for that. Him, still in Foundation Establishment realm, guess I can still handle this one. Was this thing placed as the tutorial boss or something, or was I summoned here knowing that it was hiding below that tree and gathering its forces? The monster got angry as it couldn't get the person down to the ground and found itself covering its head with those massive muscular arms. The lightning bolts started raining down on it as Matt was testing out the waters. The creature was taking a lot of damage and all, but it was healing quite fast as well. But it didn't look like the thing would be a problem for him at his current level. He didn't feel like jumping down and engaging in fisticuffs with the huge thing. What if it spit some strange goop on him, or if he got covered in tentacles? While he was doing this, he kind of ignored the smaller corrupted monsters that were slithering towards the big guy, but if he had some combat experience he might have been able to figure out what was about to happen. Why was the monster infecting the other beasts? What was the purpose of turning them into tangled up tentacle monsters? Also, the chief mentioned that it used the monsters to elevate its cultivation in some way. But by the time the cogs in Matt's head started turning, you could see a massive ball of squiggling tentacles in the open field that was giving of an eerie red light. What happened next would act as a wake-up call for Matt, as the huge humanoid-shaped, squid-faced monster bolted away with huge strides and jumped at that mass of tentacles. The cultivator stopped pelting it with his lightning bolt spam and looked bewildered, not sure what the creature was doing. Was it trying to hide from him in that? Did it want to shield itself with the tentacles? But no, seconds after the whole area began glowing in a crimson hue, Matt could feel the mass of tentacles giving off bursts of spiritual energy, and he could have sworn that he heard a heartbeat-like tune that went along with those bursts of chi. What happened next was a low witch shriek that made the man hold his palms to his ears. He could feel a sharp pain in his ears as he lost control of his flying sword and crashed to the ground. He landed a bit away from the mass of tentacles, but the screen kept him back from it. The creepy ball started shrinking and shrinking. It looked like the energy was getting absorbed from it and the tendrils crumpled into dust. Afterward, you could see the monster emerging, its eyes glowing red and it looking a bit taller than before. All the injuries that it had sustained also couldn't be seen. Mini Thulhu the Corrupted One, Core Formation Early Stage. It is at this moment that he knew, he fucked up. He probably should have taken out the smaller creatures first before they could gather up to give the ugly-looking boss a power-up. He also felt that something was now blocking his flying skill as he couldn't make the sword hover upwards well enough to escape. This was the first time he came across anything at the same cultivation realm as he was. He wasn't sure what that meant, but it wasn't anything good. His first thought was to flee, but would he be able? If he fled, what would happen to the people that were in the forest not so far away? Would this behemoth turn on them instead? He mustered up all his bravery and took a fighting stance. He sure hoped that he could handle this beast, but it looked really intimidating. The monster filled the area with its core formation aura, which gave Matt goosebumps, then charged at him. It was a lot faster than the gorilla monster that he sparred previously and a lot bigger as well. Matt misjudged how fast the creature would get to him and was a bit slow with his dodging. He could see a huge fist getting thrown right at his face. He imagined he would be turned to paste if that thing cleanly hit him. Dodging to the side, he could feel the creature's limb just barely passing, the wind pressure throwing him off balance as he fumbled to the side, a slight pain hitting his shoulder as the giant fist's knuckle grazed it. This was the first time that he actually felt pain. The previous beasts were below his body strengthening technique, so they weren't able to even hurt him even if they gave him a full-powered hit. He instinctively grasped his shoulder as he felt pain, but this only gave the monster the opportunity to extend one of its wings, which landed a direct hit to his chest. He was sent flying into some trees, kicking up a storm of broken bark and splinters. The creature roared again while stretching out its muscular arms in a show of might, taunting its enemy that it just landed a hit on. Matt got off the ground and spit out some leaves from his mouth while his hair looked scuffled. The creature looked like it was feeling good about itself as it managed to bash this cultivator good and thought he wouldn't be a problem. What happened next was a barrage of attacks that the monster unleashed on the human, which the human mostly managed to dodge but not precisely. Each time he tried to evade, he got scratched, poked, and prodded, and the damage on his clothes was a testament to that, as after a while you could see a big scratch on his chest. Matt panted while he was trying to not die from the enraged monster's continuous attacks. Matt wasn't really looking where he was dodging the monster, as the fight had switched locations into the deep forest. The two were kicking up a storm as the huge behemoth just stomped its way through the trees while charging at the cultivator. Being the lucky bastards as they were, the tribe cultivators found themselves escaping in the same direction that the fight was happening. They looked behind them and they saw the hulking monster moving towards them, while the senior that they knew was dodging its attacks. He was dodging right towards them. Matt stopped in his tracks and looked behind. Seeing the people right there, they had stupid expressions on their faces as they collapsed from the monster's pressure. The beast didn't care about them all that much, it was focused on Matt, so it delivered another huge swing in his direction while the people were behind him. If he dodged, they would surely turn into pancakes. Time looked like it had slowed down for Matt. The giant was slowly coming towards him while the people were right behind where he was standing. They were all weak cultivators. A snort from this creature could turn them into gory bits. He had a decision to make. Does he prioritize his own well-being and move away, or does he take the hit and hope that those people will get away? There was another option though, that he was running away for all this time. It was the option to fight back. Matt was only a regular person. His life was mundane, to say the least, before he was thrown into this world. He mostly cruised by his life unnoticed, never really interacting with others and just doing enough to pass his days. Never doing more than was required of him and never having any ambitions. He was okay with his video games and slow, boring lifestyle. But somewhere deep down inside he knew that he wanted to change, but he never could bring himself, always putting it off for another day. Sometimes he wondered how he ended up with this sort of pessimistic outlook on the world, but that was soon forgotten as soon as he got a new game or TV show to enjoy. Always looking at others as they led fun lives while he himself gave up on it. He clenched his fist, anger appearing on his face as his brows furrowed. He wanted to change himself. He needed to change himself, not for the people behind him, but for himself. An oppressive aura exploded from within his body as his fist started shimmering and crackling with electricity. He met the giant fist of the monster with his own attack. He just mustered up all his courage and anger into this one hit. His hand looked tiny compared to the corrupted one's, but as the two fists met and collided, the one feeling most of the pain was the huge monster instead. Lots of spiritual energy exploded. The monster could feel its fist hit something hard. It expected to squash the little human in front of it, but instead it felt immense pain in its upper limb. You could see the huge muscular hand's veins bursting and the muscles convulsing as the lightning fist strike run through it. The beast got pushed back as it roared in pain. Its knuckles broke into mush after it got hit by the cultivator's own fist that was infused with lightning chi. The man didn't stop at that though, no. He stepped forward, acting in as the monster was momentarily stunned by its arm getting mangled. In the exchange, he delivered a high kick right to the monster's chest. The monster had a humanoid body and it also had various humanoid-like organs, so as the lightning-infused kick landed on the chest area, it could feel the air getting sucked out of it. The ribs or rib-like bones in there broke apart as the beast got sent flying in the opposite direction, crushing into many trees as it just flew in an arc. Matt stood there, panting a bit. He looked at the creature that just flew over 100 meters away from him and crashed into the bushes and trees. The people behind him opened their eyes in bewilderment. Their pants were a lot warmer than before, as they might have gotten a bit scared. They saw the white-dressed cultivator from the back. He was holding up his fist, lightning sparks coming from it. The creature was gone, but it didn't take long for them to count 2 and 2 together. You fucking piece of shit. He ignored the people behind them and looked at the monster that was in pain. His eyes started glowing as he focused and took his first step forward. It was payback time. The monster stood up after a moment. It had self-healing properties, so the damage was slowly regenerating. It couldn't keep it up the whole time as it did drain its energy. The red eyes glowed with madness as it looked in the direction of the cultivator that it was fighting with, but he wasn't in that spot. It only saw some pesky humans there instead. The creature soon saw a foot instead of in its field of vision as it landed right between the eyes, sending the hulking behemoth backward yet again. The sound of thunder and thumping soon filled the forest, along with a lot of trees getting destroyed as the creature got knocked around the whole place. The previously weak cultivator that was only dodging the attacks started wailing on the large thing. They were of the same cultivation level and all, but the cultivation ranks that they had were a lot different. The monster reached its level by doping and absorbing other creatures, while the cultivator had a cultivation technique miles ahead of it. You like that, you overgrown Squidward? Matt landed a palm strike to the creature's back after using his movement technique to dodge its attack. He was hopped up on adrenaline while fighting the thing, but he was finally doing something. The creature might have been weaker than him, but it was still in the core formation realm and was regenerating from every hit he inflicted on it. After a while the creature started backing away while protecting itself from the hits, wings spreading apart as it tried to flee. He could have let it flee at this point. He had won the fight. He still felt rage and was in battle mode at this point, not thinking all that straight and not being able to calm down. He used his range skills to charge up and aimed for the thing's wings, which brought the monster down after a couple of hits. The corrupted one screamed out in agony as it glared at the small human in front. If it had known that the ant-like existence was that strong, it would have run from the start. The monster gathered up all its energy and started glowing in a crimson hue. Its muscles bulged and the tentacles on its face started thrashing about. The cultivator saw that and started charging up his own energy as well. His eyes started glowing with bright blue energy. His whole body looked like it was covered by a sheet of lightning, glowing the brightest in the spot where his hands were. The two stared at each other before they ground under their feet, trembled and showed cracks. The two collided with each other as they unleashed their strikes. The two started pummeling each other, but this time around the cultivator didn't back away. You could see that the creature wasn't looking too great, its regenerative powers not kicking in anymore as it had drained itself during the fight. Matt didn't look that well either. He had many scratches and bruises on his body but was still in better shape than the giant octopus. A huge arm was severed and flew up into the air as the cultivator held his light sword in one hand. The monster didn't have much time to react as it tried backing away but got one of its lower limbs severed instead, then collapsed onto the ground. It roared in protest as the small human cultivator got closer and closer. Matt saw everything in bullet time. The eerie atmosphere filled the place. You could see the damaged trees everywhere and leaves were slowly falling down. The cultivator brought both his hands together, fist placed over the other as the energy sword expanded in length and girth. He then charged at the beast that was kneeling down on the ground. The monster let out one last roar as it tried to defend itself from the attack, but its large tentacle-filled head got severed right at the neck. It flopped next to the large body that went down with it, but this creature wasn't dead yet. The severed head started squiggling around and moving towards the severed neck, wanting to reattach itself. At this moment the tribe people stood up, wondering if the senior killed the beast or not, as they could hear less and less of the sounds of fighting. But then they saw the man in question fly up into the sky. He hovered there while raising both his hands above his head. He started forming what looked to be a spear of lightning, but it was growing in size every second. Soon it was wider and longer than the human below it and thundering about. Matt forced as much energy into the javelin attack as he could muster. He looked at the creature that was below him. The head was slowly using its tentacles to attach itself back to the body. He didn't give it enough time though, as he chucked the jumbo lightning spear down on it. A resounding boom could be heard right after as the corrupted one exploded along with everything in a 500-meter radius around it, leaving a gaping hole in the ground. Many Thulhu the corrupted one slain, core formation early stage, earned 90,000 SP. The cultivator was panting as he looked on at the big hole in the ground. The damage was immense. He could see water slowly filling up the hole as a river was close by to it. He slowly descended to the ground, going to the impact zone. He grasped the only thing that remained of the beast, which was its core. He looked at the thing that caused him so much trouble and smiled to himself a bit. He did it. He won. He was a bit happy that he managed to fight the beast, but a bit mad at himself for being such a coward for so long. He gave out a chuckle and then placed the tennis ball-sized core into his storage ring. He should be able to get some nice rewards for it or use it to craft some good stuff. He looked a bit dirty due to having been battling the monster in the forest, his clothes weren't super sturdy or anything, but they had some strange self-regeneration ability to them. So with a bit of time they looked brand new. He himself didn't feel all that great, he didn't think that he fought well. He used up too much energy and relied on his superior cultivation prowess to win while running away for the first half of the battle. But it was his first fight with someone close to his level. He was happy that he actually managed to win, but he had a lot of things to work on. He popped one of the healing pills into his mouth and felt a refreshing sensation wash over him. He kind of forgot that he even had those in the middle of the fight. Matt could feel that the creature's evil chi was subsiding and the forest would go back to how it was previously. The berserk monsters would also vanish without having its host around. He smirked at the number of points that he received for the fight, which was a whooping 90k points. He would be able to get the next level of the crafting abode, or maybe some new kick-ass skill. At this moment he remembered why he even came to this place in the first place. He looked in the direction the scared tribe members were and hopped onto his flying sword, slowly drifting towards them while the tension from the fight subsides. His legs felt a bit wobbly at the moment, but he didn't show it, the healing pills having refreshed him somehow. Yang Rong stood up with the help of his buddies and looked in the direction of where the fighting noises were previously coming from, but now it was silent, too silent. Did that man win? His cronies looked at him a bit awkwardly when he referred to the senior that just saved them with that man and not with a more honorable title, but they kind of gave up on their master as they knew his character well. Suddenly they heard a strange sound, and in the distance, they could see a faint glow that was moving slowly towards them. At first they thought it was some monster again, but after a while, they noticed that it was Zhang Dong slowly hovering towards them on his sword. There was a path of broken down tries that he made by kicking the creature away, so he had a clear path towards them. Everyone alive? The man asked the group that stood up, clasped their hands and took a bow, well, everyone besides the kid they were protecting who just did a half-baked bow. This made the others sweat bullets as they didn't want to anger the person that just slaughtered a huge monster on his own. The cultivator hopped down from his sword and slowly walked over to the silky pants in question, the others already afraid of what was about to happen. Hey kid, you should fix that attitude problem, you'll get yourself killed one day if you continue like that. He flicked the youth's forehead with pointing finger, which with his increased strength left a bruise behind, making Yang Rong yelp out. Let's go back to the village, your father and family are worried sick about you. The youth moved his head down as the cultivator mentioned his family that was worried about him. They soon moved back towards the village, but it would take them a bit to get there, plus it was late at night. They abandoned their temporary camp along the way. They had all of their gear in there. They mentioned this to Matt, that decided that they should go see if it's still there. He didn't really want to fly at a slow pace for the entire night, plus he felt tired, more psychologically than physically. Luckily after a couple of hours, they found the old camping site that was mostly intact. Didn't take the tribesmen to bring it back in order. It wasn't much but just light tents though. Matt, of course, took up the tent that the kid previously had to himself, so he had to sleep with the rest of his men in the other one. The tension lessened in the morning as they moved on. Matt decided to place all the equipment into his storage rings so that the men could move faster and ordered them to run back to the village with all their might. He wanted to reach it before the day ended. All of the people were cultivators, so they had a lot of stamina, but not that much as they were all in the chi condensation stage, ranging from 3 to 6. Surprisingly the beasts didn't attack them anymore. Probably the disappearance of the corrupted one and the chi that was corrupting the animals and making them violent was the cause of that. Also, the beasts weren't that stupid, they could feel the overbearing aura of the cultivator in white, so they made sure to stay far away from him. The tribe people collapsed as they were in the close vicinity of the village. Other members came to help them as they spotted the whole group. They were surprised and happy that all of them were still alive and breathing. They sometimes didn't see eye to eye with these silky pants bodyguards. They were of the same tribe though, and they still felt a sense of unity. A huge commotion was then heard as everyone rushed to the town gates. The chief showed his love to his son by giving him a good punch in the face that broke the kid's nose and sent him flying into a nearby wall. Matt scratched his neck and smiled a little bit as he saw the father disciplining his no-good offspring. After Yang Rong went down, he was picked up by some family members and carried away to get some medical help. Yang Shan gave Matt another bow of respect but got waved off to cut that out by the man in question. You don't need to do that, you'll get some knee disease if you keep kneeling to me every time we see each other. The burly man blushed a bit as he knew that he was overdoing it a bit, but he couldn't give the senior much for helping his son. They left the town entrance and Matt got a small reward in the form of a feast. Then he heard of his manly fighting form as the others started recounting how he had slain the beast. They didn't see him flee from the thing, plus they didn't see much besides the one time he exchanged a blow with the monster and sent it flying. so they kind of put in a few good words for him, making him look like a lofty battle-hardened cultivator that feared no one. After coughing a couple of times as the tribe members were praising him too much, he drank and watched as the people danced and had a merry good time before he turned in for the day to wind down. It was about to leave this place, but he would remember this place fondly. He remembered to return the camping equipment and the tracking medallion before turning in for the night. He had a lot of points to spend tomorrow. Name, Zhang Dong. Affiliation, Zhang Clan. Spirit points, 118,234. Cultivation base Qi, core formation early stage 42%, lightning core. Cultivation base body, foundation establishment middle stage 0%, silver body. Techniques, lightning Qi cultivation art, silver body arts, thunder light sword, thunder movement art, lightning javelin, lightning punching and kicking arts, basic and advanced fighting techniques. Tapping could be heard as the cultivator sipped on some tea and looked up into what seemed to be empty space, but he could see something there. Asterisk close to 120k points. Hey, what should I get? Think I'll get the apprentice crafting abode. I'll be able to craft mortal grade weapons, those are mostly used by people in Foundation Establishment realm. Asterisk. When it came to weapon grades, it went from common, then mortal, then earth and heaven. Common grade was used by people from the Qi condensation realm, while mortal grade was used mostly by people from Foundation Establishment. Then you had earth grade for the core formation experts, then the heaven graded for the nascent soul masters. The latter was a cultivation realm associated with the top experts on this planet. There was a very small amount of those, and they were mostly the patriarchs and grand masters of their respected sects. Core formation experts mostly occupied the middle standing and were leaders of various top standing clans, but if you wanted to be in the highest position you needed to have at least one nascent soul cultivator on your side. There was a minuscule amount of nascent soul cultivators around, but there also was a small amount of core formation cultivators around as well. Most people were in the first two stages, forming the core demographic of cultivators. This meant that he would probably have a lot of people to sell his weapons to. He could trade the spirit stones that he earned for points, he wouldn't have to fight beasts anymore. Then he could expand into the earth grade and even make fitting weapons and gear for himself. That was the plan, so he spent the 28k points for the crafting abode. His points fell to about 90k in a second. He then spent another 10k to get some basic weapon schematics along with crafting materials required to make a couple of swords and spears that he could sell. He was in a good mood, so he decided to see how well he would do in the crafting abode. After popping into the closed-off dimension, he noticed that the room looked a bit bigger than before, and the anvil and every tool looked better than it previously did. It was still in the castle-like room but looked better. He selected the classical Jian sword. It was one of the most popular weapon types around, together with the spear. He got ready and waited for the tune to start. It was a new song this time around as well. Hit started hitting and ended up with a high-grade weapon this time. He resumed the bonking, choosing the same weapon once more, but this time around he put in a couple of the Qi condensation creature cores into the mix. He also produced a high-grade sword with that, but it had a different appearance and patterns than the first one. He reckoned that the weaker beast cores didn't work that well with the mortal grade weapons, and he would need to use up the Foundation Establishment realm ones to get a similar effect that he got with the common grade weapons. But he didn't have enough of those around to blow, he just had a handful and wasn't sure if he should use them up just yet. Though using one to test things wouldn't hurt, so this time he selected a Guandao halberd for creation and started bunking those glowing bits on the slab of metal. The metal was higher grade than what he was using on the common weapons, and after he was finished he did indeed end up with a perfect grade weapon that gave out a radiant aura. He had used the first core that he got in this world, which came from the monster bunny. Maybe this thing would have better penetrating power like the horn rabbit's head with this. He used up all the materials he had bought after creating 6 mortal grade weapons. These things cost a lot to make. He needed about 1k points to have enough resources to produce one. He would need to sell it for at least 100 spirit stones to break even. He wasn't sure for how much weapons went in this world, so he would have to visit one of those auction houses. There was one more thing that he did while crafting. He was able to engrave a little logo on his weapons, so he went for a lightning bolt logo. The bolt of lightning was going through the circle that was crackling with energy. It looked a bit similar to a certain superhero speedster from the previous world he lived in. He was sure there would be no copyright problems in this world. Branding was an important thing, and if he could make high-grade and perfect-grade weapons, he was sure that his logo would be associated with quality. Due to that, he didn't engrave any logos if he made an inferior product below the high grade. He had still 80k points to spend, but he wasn't sure about what. He could upgrade his skills, but he wasn't sure what he should go for. Should he go for more power in general? More defense? He didn't really have any type of defensive skills besides the one used for evading. Maybe his body refining technique could be considered a defensive skill? As he thought about his body, remembered his body strengthening technique. Silver body. Silver body is the next advanced form of the copper body refining technique. Instead of hard psychical training that is mostly attributed to body refining techniques, the cultivator absorbs weapons/treasures that are metallic in nature to refine his body into a treasure in its own. The higher grade the treasure is, the stronger the body gets. Common grade weapons and treasures have no effect on this technique. The technique can be trained up to the nascent soul great circle realm. He took out one of the weapons that he made and held the sword in his hand. He closed his eyes and started concentrating on the weapon. His body started glowing in a silvery hue and the sword started vibrating. It was a slow process taking about 10 minutes, the weapon started dissolving as time passed and the metallic substance that it produced seeped into his pores and he could feel his physique getting stronger and stronger as it gave out a silvery sheen. Cultivation base body, foundation establishment middle stage 20%, silver body. Asterisk O, 20% et? So need 4 more high-grade weapons to get up a realm, asterisk. He had 4 more of the high-graded weapons while the 5th one was a perfect grade, he didn't want to use that one just yet. So after an hour of absorbing the previously created weapons, he found his silver body breaking into the late stage. He got a bit crafting crazy now and spent another 1k points to make another weapon, getting it up to high grade as well. But after absorbing it this time around, his cultivation budged only by 5%. Asterisk 5%. I'd need 19 more of those weapons, that will put me at 60k points still, asterisk. He spent the rest of the day just crafting and absorbing the high-grade weapons. He couldn't get them to be perfect, the only way was adding beast cores to do that. After he absorbed 19 of those high-grade weapons like a madman, he broke through into the great circle and his silvery sheen was even more prominent. But after he tried taking in one last hard grade of those weapons, he ended up with a 0,5% boost. It would take a bit for him to get it past the great circle and into the core formation. Matt ended up at 50k points after he crafted more high-grade weapons to sell the next time he was in a city, having 9 high-grade ones and 1 perfect grade. Then he left to appear in a flash to see that he spent the whole day crafting around. He still wanted to see if he could get some handy-dandy skills to help him out in the future. He went through the store. Earth-grade skills were the ones used by core formation cultivators, so he decided to focus on those, trying to go for the higher grade ones, and after going through the lists he decided on some. Lightning Force Field. Earth high grade, 17,000, 11,900, the cultivator is able to generate a force field around his body to block attacks. He can also create a sturdier field in the desired spot for more protection or widen the area depending on their cultivation. Storm Dragon, Earth high grade, 18,000, 12,600, cultivator summons a dragon made from lightning. It has a mind of its own and will follow the user's orders. After it dies it discharges all stored energy. Lightning Deo Avatar Transformation, Earth Peak Grade, 30,000, 21,000, the cultivator transforms his body into a Lightning Deo Avatar. The size increases dependent on the cultivation base. The cultivator gains destructive power without having to sacrifice speed while still having an increased size. Matt felt the skill info get injected into his brain one more. The pain wasn't as bad as before, maybe his body skill upped his resistances to this. He was left with 4,734, it didn't take long to spend the points, but it was a hassle go get them. The best way at the moment would be fighting more beasts at his level, but things at that cultivation level were rare, plus he got lucky and fought one that had just leveled up and wasn't used to the elevated cultivation. He had more skills in his arsenal that he needed to test out, but it was also time to leave this village. The problem with the rage monsters was solved, so he had fewer monsters to hunt. Also he wanted to see the world a bit more as well. He was a bit more confident in himself now. He pulled up his map and looked at his destination that the system was kind of guiding him towards. Spirit Spring City was located in the Azure Dragon Empire. The map didn't really go into much detail as it only showed him the locations and the names without explaining much. He looked at the map and the Spirit Spring City was quite a bit away from his location. He was at the edge of the empire that had mostly small tribes and villages around. The next big city that was about halfway towards his destination was called Moonlight City. It was quite large, just slightly smaller than the other city that he knew of. He decided to make a stop there on his way as he didn't want to just blindly fly all the time, and maybe he could sell and put some stuff in there. He had asked the tribe people about the structure of this empire with the pretext that he was a traveler from another country. They were happy to tell him about the power structures and how the world worked, that they knew of. He learned the chi condensation cultivators filled up the majority of the population, most never getting through the third-level bottleneck. Everyone hid their cultivation methods and resources, so it was hard for regular people to cultivate. That's why chi cultivators up below the fourth level were called commoners. After a cultivator reached the foundation establishment level, he or she could create their own family clan, passing down their teachings to elevate it. There was no rule to the size of the clans, so they came in various shapes and sizes. After that came the sects. Those mostly required someone to be at least of the foundation establishment level but near the top of that. The sects scouted disciples to their location to grow and expand their influence, not requiring one to be from the same family lineage. Sects were the biggest fishes around in the empire, but it wasn't ruled by a sect in particular but had an emperor instead. The emperor belonged to the Long clan and kept the sects in check, but no one knew who would come out on top if the two factions fought. The tribe people weren't informed enough about the prominent sects and clans, as any one of them was out of their league. There were many new ones being created while old ones were crushed in a constant struggle for power. Guess the Azure Dragon Emperor would be one of the top cultivators around here then? But those people like to hide their true power, so there might be a bigger boss behind him. He gathered some info before heading out, along with some supplies that he got from the villagers for helping them out with their beast crisis. He could see the silky pants that he saved all bandaged up, but mostly from the beating his father gave him and not from the beasts. His followers looked at him with a gleam in their eyes while smiling. This made Matt feel a bit uncomfortable on the inside. He would rather have some cute girls look at him like that, but instead he had some hairy burly men do that instead, which sent a shiver down his spine. Matt moved in front of the larger brown-skinned man and gave him a smile. He then stretched out his hand, going for a handshake, which Yang Shan didn't understand at first. This is a way how people from where I come from greet or say their farewells, he said while grasping the burly man's large hand and giving it a firm handshake. The man looked down but then shook it right back, looking like he liked this new way of greeting people. Kuth. The corrupted one is dead, so you shouldn't have any more beast problems. If you have any troubles, you can search for me in Spirit Spring City. That's where I'm heading for now. I'll probably be there for a while. Or so I hope. He shook some more hands, as everyone seemed to like this new sign of respect, was a bit more personal than the bowing. Well, I'll be heading out then. You guys take care. A lot of people were gathered to send him off, cheering and clapping at him as he started floating up into the air. Well, be sure to recount your deeds for generations to come, senior. Everyone will know the name, Zhang Dong. Well, at least I didn't use the name Long Dong. He nodded to the people and whooshed into the air, his cultivation making the crystal-like sword shine in a bright hue as he was propelled forward to his next destination. The scenery changed to a more open one. It wasn't just trees anymore, as he could see people tending to their crops on their farmlands. When they looked up, they could see the cultivator dressed in a white robe, his long hair fluttering in the wind along with it. He checked his map as he looked for Moonlight City that he was heading first, but also he spotted a certain spot he wanted to make a pit stop before even going there. It looked like a really tall mountain with a high elevation, and that meant a better place to cultivate. He was already halfway done by this point even when doing it in this village, so he should be able to bust through to the middle stage in no time, and a few days here and there wouldn't be a problem. Nothing much happened on the way there, but he did not make it there through the day. He stopped and descended in an unpopulated area. There was not much around besides grass, some trees and bushes. He kind of prepared for this type of occasion, as he wondered where he should sleep when he was on the move. The cultivators from the stories always dug out some caves and then squatted in there during the night or when they were injured, but he was used to sleeping on a bed. He pulled up his screen and clicked the crafting abode icon that transported him to the candle and fire-lit space. Who needs to buy another pricey base if I have this already? The store had big and small houses, rooms, and even pocket dimensions with gardens where he could reside, but they all cost a huge amount. He took out a bed from his ring that he nabbed from the tribe and placed it on the ground. This crafting area was quite large and he could even dim the light in the setting, so why couldn't he use it as a sleeping space? So he turned in for the night and dreamed about marshmallow clouds.